Peace and power to the true and living. What's good, family? It's Seaborn Nacirfa-Sun, and I am you. Yo, I'm excited to be coming at you with another powerful reflection. And this one I titled The Mark of the Beast Part 2. I made a video a while back titled The Mark of the Beast. And I want to take some time to, talk about that a little bit in this video because I've been having some conversations with my brother and a few other people, and they've been asking me questions about this. So I want to take some time to go a little deeper into this because what I'm seeing is one of the hardest things for people to realize is the fact that our electronics, our technology is really an imprisonment. We believe that it has made the world a better place. It has made our lives better. It has improved our lives. But that's a great deception, So I'm going to take some time in this video to talk more about that and share a few points on that. But before I get into that, it has also been brought to my attention because, as I mentioned over and over again, the reason why I make these videos is just to bring more attention and awareness to the Grail message, especially in a time where the darkness is increasing and people are becoming more and more lost in the darkness and becoming more and more ignorant. So that's really my purpose for making these videos. But a few people have brought to my attention the fact that, that I use profanity, and, they are right. I should not be using profanity. And you see, this is some of the reason why I always give my disclaimer, at the beginning of all my videos. You have the disclaimer, and I tell you that, I'm not here to be your leader. I'm not here because I want you to follow me. The reason why I promote the Grail message is that one of the most beautiful thing about the Grail message is that the message allows you to stand on your own 2 feet. You don't have to follow anyone once you have this message, And so I encourage you, to read the message and get this knowledge of creation for yourself so that you can stand on your own too and don't have to depend on the thoughts and opinions of other people, because I don't follow anybody. My foundation is the Grail message, and that's what I use to guide me. And I'm encouraging, those of y'all who watch my videos, who follow my channel, I'm encouraging y'all to also read the message, get this knowledge so that you can stand on your own too and not have to follow anyone and be dependent upon the opinions of anyone, because as I mentioned, my goal is just to bring awareness to the Grail message. But however, I can't really say that I'm a representative of the message, because as I mentioned earlier, sometimes I use profanity in my videos, and I know that I shouldn't be doing that. But one of the reasons, it happens is because when you really understand creation for what it is, and you see what human beings are doing today and how we are bringing more darkness and destruction to our world, it becomes very frustrating, so sometimes I get upset, I become frustrated, and that's why I use profanity. But the message also talks about the power of the human word, so for all those people who have brought it to my attention, I appreciate you, and I do want you to know that I hear you, and my using profanity is, just my own, inability to control my anger and my frustration, because like I said, when you really understand and you see what's happening, it's ridiculous, man. It's freaking ridiculous. But anyways, I just want to let y'all know that. So this is the reason why I always give my disclaimer. I'm not your leader, I'm not your guru, I'm not your pastor, I'm not your pope. I don't want to be any of that. You have to get the message for yourself. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get off into this Mark of the Beast Part 2. Now, I've had some people reach out to me since I recorded this video, ask me certain questions about it, and I've had a few conversations with my own brother about about this. And whenever you tell people that, you know, these electronics and this technology is not as great as we think it is, and it doesn't mean that humanity has made some great progress. No, it's not. It's actually the very opposite. These technology and these electronics, you know, it's not great progress. It has actually taken us, it's taken us back, but in a way that we can't see it. And one thing that we need to realize about the Luciferian deception, and I've spoken about this many times, is that the Luciferian deception works so well because of the principle of temptation. These things are offered to us in the most appealing ways. You know, they're offered to us, you know, in a way that makes it seem like, you know, it's the greatest thing in the world and it's going to take us to the next level of our human evolution and things like that. And that's not really the case. It's really taking us back and plunging us deeper into ignorance and darkness, you know, and really disconnecting us from our Creator. So let's talk about this. And there's a few points I'm going to share. And one of those points is, as I was just talking about, is that, you know, these electronics, they are a lesser technology. They're not as great as we think they are, you know. And one of the main reasons for giving us this technology was to disconnect us from the Creator, and also to take away our ability to develop our, you know, our dormant spiritual powers. You know, there are many things that, you know, human beings should have been capable of doing at this point in time in our existence, but we are not we're not able to do those things. Matter of fact, we're not even aware of those things. And some of the reason is because of this is because of the way that electronics and technology has really taken over our lives. You know, has really infiltrated every fabric of our existence. You know, so it's not a great technology. It's not progress. What it is it is enslavement. You know, it is really enslavement. And we're going to get a little deeper into that. Now, another point that I want to make here is this, is the wisdom of the ancestors. You know, we have lost a lot of the wisdom of the ancestors, because the early human beings, they were much more connected to creation than we are today, and they knew much more about creation than we do today, and they were much more connected to the Creator, and they were much more spiritually developed than we are today. So when you think about, you know, the fact that how you have the, you know, throughout the course of history, you have the civilized world, you know, that have, when, you know, the so quote unquote civilized people that have went all over the world trying to, you know, enforce their knowledge, their way of living, their medicine, their, you know, their technology. They have went around the world and pretty much enforced those things upon the indigenous peoples of the world who were living and thriving without these things. You know, when we think about that, whenever these people went around to these various indigenous civilizations and trying to force these things upon them, of course there were many of the indigenous people who accepted these things with open arms, you know, but there were always, you know, a number of the indigenous people, regardless of how small, who always rejected these things. And what they used to tell us about these people is that, you know, they're just backwards people. You know, they are afraid of progress and change. You know, they want to remain stuck in the old way of doing things and such. But that's not really the case. There's another aspect to this that we're not seeing. And today, I really see and I understand the wisdom of the ancestors, and I see why, you know, you always had these people who rejected these so-called, you know, technological advancements and all this new stuff that the so-called civilized people of the Western world was, you know, enforcing upon these indigenous people. And the reason why they rejected it is not because they were afraid of progress. It's because they could see through the nonsense, and they realized that these things that were being brought to them was not progress. It was really enslavement, because when you think about it, we have really enslaved ourselves. We have really become trapped to these electronics and technology, to a point where we literally could not function today without these things. We cannot function at all without these things, you know. But if you look at the ancestors, they never had to live with the threat of, you know, their computers being shut down. You know, they never had to live with the threat of a blackout, to where they couldn't get food, they couldn't get medicine, they couldn't get gas, they couldn't get transportation. I mean, you name it. They never had to live with that threat, because they didn't need those things in order to enrich and advance their lives. They lived without these so-called great electronics and technology that we have today. So if something like a blackout was to happen for us today, I mean, most people would not survive. You know, think about what happened some years back with this whole issue with Bernie Madoff. You know, Bernie Madoff, the guy who went and stole, you know, all this retirement money from people. What happened is that a lot of those people who were victims of Bernie Madoff ended up killing themselves, because they couldn't live without that, you know, without the security and comfort of their retirement. So they killed themselves. And that's just one little example. Now imagine not only losing all your retirement money and all your cushion and comfort, but losing, you know, all these things, you know, all these electronic and technology based things that we heavily depend on today. Imagine losing all of that on a global scale. Imagine how many people would not survive, how many people would kill themselves. You know, it'll be completely catastrophic. As a matter of fact, those things are coming. It's going to happen. But when you look at the ancestors, that's not something they ever had to worry about, because they never built their lives, you know, around these things. They never depended on these things. So they could live without, you know, the computers and the electronics, and, you know, they could provide light to their homes without electronics and computers and so forth. So that was a threat, that was a danger that they never had to worry about, you know. So this is what I mean when I say the wisdom of the ancestors. And there was only a few of them who could really see through these things, and that's why they rejected these things, because they did not want to enslave themselves to these things. But the human being of today, those of us who live in a so quote unquote civilized world, you know, we are literally sitting ducks. You know, we look at these things as if, you know, they have made our lives so much better. You know, we have gained so much progress, and that's not the case. We're just enslaved to these things, because the fact is, all this stuff we can lose overnight. You know, these things are not, they're not secure. At any given moment, there could be a blackout. You know, so what'll happen when you have no cell phones, no computers, and no way of gaining access to all these things that we now are so heavily dependent upon? What happens then? We're doomed, you know, and this is something that the ancestors did not have to worry about. The fact is, we don't need these electronics. However, we have structured our lives and our society to a point where we cannot live without them. So even though we don't need them, but unfortunately, we have forced it upon ourselves to a point where we cannot live without it. So whenever you're in a situation, whenever you create a condition to where you're forced to live with things that you don't need, that puts you in danger. That takes away security. You know, that takes away the foundation. You know, the firm foundation that the ancestors had. You know, so all that is taken away, because we're forced to live, to depend on things that we don't really need. Because once again, when we look at the ancestors, they lived and they thrived without these things. Without these, the so-called great technology and electronics. They lived and they thrived without those things. But for those of us, for the humanity of today, we like to pride ourselves on being, a greatly advanced humanity because we have all this technology. But the fact is, we're not. The ancestors were in a much better position than we are today, without the technology. So really think about that, and think about the dangerous situation that we have created, because we are forced to live with things that we don't really need for our survival and our advancement and evolution. So this is one of the many ways in which we have trapped ourselves. It's like we have been tricked into building our own prison, under the delusion that we were making progress. Under the delusion that these things was giving us greater freedom and greater access to life and so forth. And that's really not the case. And the only reason why we cannot see that these things imprison us, like the great saying goes, if a person cannot see the bars of their imprisonment, then they think that they're free. They live under the delusion that they're free. And that's what's happening with us today. It's just that we cannot see the bars of our imprisonment. That's all it is. It doesn't mean that, electronics and technology has taken us to this great, stage of human evolution. No, it has not. It has not. And these are the things that we're going to have to face in the coming future, because the blackouts are coming. The nuclear bombs will be dropped. So then how will we survive? And there are people in this world today who are living without these things, but where are they? Do you see them anywhere? Are they your neighbors? Do they live in your city? Absolutely not. These people live far off, away from the so-called civilized world. They live nowhere near us. They're living in the jungles and so forth, living in nature and off the land. But as it stands today, the lives we're living today, we are imprisoned by our own creation. So that's just something to think about when we talk about the mark of the beast. And as I mentioned in the first video, the mark of the beast is electronics. That was the first step, because there are many levels to this, to this mark of the beast. There are many levels to it. It's not just one thing, So the mark of the beast has already been given to us long ago with these electronics, and we didn't even realize it, and we accepted it with open hand. So as it stands today, just about, almost every human being on this planet today is walking around with the mark of the beast in their hands, in their pockets, everywhere they go. And not even realizing that this is the mark of the beast. Not even realizing that this is our imprisonment that we take with us everywhere that we go. And whenever I mention this to people, they always want to turn around and say, well, what about you? Well, I mean, yeah, I'm not excluded from this. I'm not living off in the jungle somewhere. I'm living right here in the midst of the whole thing. So yes, I'm included in this, and I'm dependent on this stuff just as much as the next man. But the difference is, I realize that it's an imprisonment. And most of us don't want to accept that. We don't want to face the harsh reality. And another question I get is, well, what is the solution? What you gonna do about it? Well, the first and most important step is awareness. Being aware of this. You cannot break yourself out of prison if you don't realize that you're in prison. Like within the movie The Matrix. Why were most human beings living in a prison known as the Matrix. Is because they didn't know that they were in a prison, you know. And that's exactly what we are in today. We're living in a prison, you know. So going back to this idea of the mark of the beast, the technology, the electronics that we hold in our hands today, and that's all throughout our homes, you know, the Alexas and the Siris and all those things that we talk to and we include in our lives, that's the mark of the beast. But that was the first stage of the mark of the beast. You know, the next stage is the transhumanism agenda. You know, that's the next stage, the transhuman agenda with these so-called vaccines, the C-1984 vaccines. And then also, even beyond that, the Pentagon is working on the chip that is supposed to be put inside the human body. I mean, they say they're working on it, but I'm pretty sure that they already have this technology developed. I'm pretty sure it's a done deal. You know, now it's just about how are they going to get people to put this in their bodies. I mean, most people are going to accept this. Most people are going to put those chips inside of their bodies. You know, and those chips, the whole idea behind those chips is that you will not be able to buy or sell or participate in society without having that chip implanted into your hands or your arm or wherever they're going to put it. You know, the Pentagon already has this technology. So it's only a matter of time until they start rolling it out, just like they did with the vaccines. You know, how they've been rolling out this vaccine, how they have literally tricked humanity into accepting this very destructive thing. It's the same thing with electronics. The same way they tricked us into accepting, you know, and propagating electronics and making it a part of every fabric of our lives. It's the same way they're going to do this. But I mean, it's already here, you know, and it's happening in some places already. So it's not even one of those things where it's not a theory. It's reality. It's happening, you know. But it all started with these electronic devices that we are holding in our hands because we thought they were just the greatest thing in the world. We didn't have the wisdom of the ancestors to see through these things, you know. But some of the ancestors, they saw through it. They fought against it, you know. And they're no longer here. But it's up to us to learn a lesson from the ancestors. You know, it's up to us to learn the lesson and really to start, you know, like I said, the first and most important step is awareness. And after you become fully aware, then the next step is, you know, how can we gradually detach ourselves from the matrix? And that's really what it becomes. How can we gradually detach ourselves from the matrix and be able to live and thrive without these things? You know, because one of the purpose of the mark of the beast, as I mentioned earlier, is to disconnect us from the Creator, and therefore to keep us from developing our dormant spiritual powers. As I mentioned in the first mark of the beast video, there are many things that we should have been able to do by now. So when you talk about healing the body, when you talk about things like levitation and being able to fly, when you talk about things like telekinetic communication, telepathic communication, and things like that. I mean, there's so many things so many capabilities, spiritual capabilities of the human being that we have not been able to develop. You know, and this is because we have accepted the mark of the beast. This is because we have accepted, you know, and been tricked into building our own prison. And it's very hard to make people see that because we have become so dependent on our imprisonment. You know, I mean, it's crazy, but that's the world we're living in. And once again, the blackouts are coming. The nuclear bombs will be dropped. And I made a video about this a long time ago when I talked about the Fatima prophecy and nuclear weapons. We fail to ask these simple questions. Why in the world did we allow our governments to even build nuclear weapons? Why? You know, and nuclear power is something that we could use to eradicate a lot of the problems that we have in this world today. But nuclear power is only being used to create weapons of destruction. So why in the world have we allowed our governments to build and hoard nuclear weapons? What do you think is going to be done with those nuclear weapons? You think they just build it just to store it somewhere and never use it? No. If you pay attention to what's happening in the world and the way that humanity, the way we're being plunged deeper and deeper into ignorance and darkness, these nuclear weapons are going to be used. They're going to be used. Because the people behind this, the Luciferians behind this, they know exactly what they're doing. They have a plan, you know. But for the rest of us here, living in this prison, living in this matrix, we don't want to accept the harsh reality. We don't want to ask the simple and hard questions. You know, we don't want to do that. We rather just live obliviously, thinking that, you know, it's all going to be okay. We're not in danger. Yes, we live in a world of nuclear weapons, but that poses no danger to us. How can we possibly be safe in a world where governments have stockpiles of nuclear weapons? How does that create safety? You know? But anyways, man, I'm going to go ahead and stop this video because I don't want to make it too long. But this is the Mark of the Beast Part 2. So if you have any questions, any comments, go ahead and, you know, leave it in the comment section. And as I mentioned, man, YouTube is shadow banning me. You know, they are making my content hard to find. They are misrepresenting my viewership. So as a result, I need the support. So for those of y'all who's been supporting me, please continue to do so. Subscribe to the channel. Share this information with friends and family. And really, let's bring the Grill message to the forefront of the world, because this is what the world needs. The Grill message is the Word of God. And the Word of God is the only thing that can save humanity. There's nobody coming to save you. And that's one of the greatest mistakes that we make, because we live with this foolish mentality that there is somebody or someone coming to save you. No. The only thing that can save us is learning creation, learning the laws of our Creator and applying those laws to our lives. That's the only thing that's going to save us. You know? So please share this content, subscribe to the video, click the like button. You know, help me try to get it out there. So with that being said, peace and power to the true and living, the seaborn Nacirfa-Sun, and I am you.